Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to the SSIS Coffee Talk for the Family and Permanency Team screen. We definitely appreciate you being here. Today, we're going to go through, pull up the agenda here. We'll do some welcome and introductions. Heidi Morris, who is our mentor coordinator, is going to throw some links in the chat. Before we get started today, rather than waiting until the end of the presentation to present some of the resources that are available to you, we're going to just go ahead and throw those in the chat right away. The links that you will see in the chat should be a link to the Family First Prevention Services Act website that was designed at the Minnesota Child Welfare Training Academy to hold recordings and additional resources for all of you to access as we begin our implementation of FFPSA. This website will also contain links to upcoming webinars, but that link to upcoming webinars will also be thrown in the chat by Heidi. We're also going to link the draft tutorial for the Family and Permanency Team screen in SSIS. And then right now we will post a link to the webinar completion form, and maybe we'll go ahead and post that again toward the end of the webinar so that you have access to fill something out to provide to your supervisors or licensing boards that you attended training today. And then what I also want to go over before we get started today are some important contact information here at the state of Minnesota for foster care and safety. What you see before you is contact information that you might have regarding policy on what you're hearing today related to the Family and Permanency Team. And that first email is going to be the foster care unit, dhs.csp fostercare at state.mn.us. And then we have for information regarding prevention services, we can contact the safety unit here at DHS. And then for all things SSIS, mentors are free to contact the SSIS help desk. And that email handle is listed on this slide as well. So a bunch of links are getting thrown into the chat right now. Hopefully you will have time to download those for your reference and for other individuals at your agency to reference as well. I just want to make mention that the SSIS draft tutorial, I want to let you know that this is still in draft status. Implementation of Family First Prevention Services does not begin until September 30th. And by then we'll have finalized documentation, and we will upload that finalized documentation to the FFPSA website through the Training Academy, as well as post them on the existing SSIS resource page in County Link. So we'll give you guys a second to download that information while I get set up here in SSIS to walk through the new screen enhancement for the Family and Permanency Team. So if you were in participation of the previous webinar, you have a general understanding of the background of the Family and Permanency Team in SSIS, but I will review a little bit of policy information before we get started today. So part of the Qualified Residential Treatment Program, or QRTP, referral and placement process is the creation and documentation of a QRTP Family and Permanency Team for the child and the team's activities regarding the QRTP assessment and possible placement setting. The QRTP family and permanency team screen is a new screen and is required to document the assembly of a team to aid the qualified individual who will be making the recommendation as to whether a child should be placed in a QRTP placement setting. The team will consist of the child's relatives, professionals, and other members who will best help the child, family, and agency fulfill the permanency goals for that child. The members and their contact information will be provided to the qualified individual as part of the QRTP assessment. And then per Minnesota law, when the responsible social services agency juvenile treatment screening team recommends placing the child in a qualified residential treatment program, the agency will assemble this family and permanency team within 10 calendar days. In addition to the creation of this team, SSIS will also track all team meetings. This will be handled with a new activity called QRTP Family and Permanency Team Meeting, which will be available from the existing contact activity screen in Chronology. We'll navigate to our participant folder, and our example will be listed under this particular client by the name of Stacy Snow. We're going to navigate to Stacy's permanency folder. And as you can see underneath the permanency folder, there is a new QRTP documentation subfolder where users will find the QRTP family and permanency team, as well as that new QRTP assessment folder that we covered in a previous webinar. To create a new family and permanency team screen, individuals can select the QRTP family and permanency team folder and either create a new family permanency team under the lightning bolt, the action menu, or simply by right-clicking on that folder itself and selecting new QRTP family and permanency team. Now, this screen functionality is a little different from what you all may be used to. So splitter bars are going to be your friends here. You might need to move them around in order to see both the top and the bottom portions of this screen. Well, they're playing with me right now. Okay, so here's the top portion of the screen. We start with QRTP family and permanency team help text. This is going to provide the user with information and guidance on how to fill out this screen according to the provisions of the Family First Prevention Services Act. At the time this team is assembled, there may or may not be a placement entered into SSIS. However, if the child bypassed the juvenile screening team and has been placed in, or the juvenile treatment screening team and has already been placed due to a severe episode, the placement may already be loaded into SSIS, and that can be selected from the dropdown. The only types of placements you will see in this dropdown have an applicable certification of QRTP. What I mean by applicable certification was covered in our webinar related to AFCARs, and the chart is also included in the appendix of the job aid that was linked in the chat for you. So as you can see, I have loaded the placement just to provide an example of the placement that you can select from the dropdown that meets the applicable certification of QRTP. The associated work groups, the work group will autofill from with the information of the work group you were creating this screen in. However, if this particular individual client is a member of multiple work groups, users may want to enter the applicable work group with the dropdown. We're going to leave it alone because this is the work group that we want to create the family and permanency team screen from. A required field can be viewed next for date team assembled. You can manually type or choose from a date picker the date the family and permanency team was assembled. Here's that date picker, or you can manually enter the date. Throughout the life of the case, individual information regarding ICWA may be gathered, but the most current ICWA eligibility determination for this particular case should be brought into this ICWA field. As you can see, I have completed the ICWA eligibility determination for this client, and you can see that yes, ICWA applies, or you would see no, ICWA does not apply. When ICWA applies, there's an index card located to the right of this field that will provide you with the information associated to that ICWA eligibility determination. The next field is to describe the agency's reasonable and good faith efforts to assemble the family and permanency team. And if the child is an Indian child under section 260.751, the agency's active efforts to include the child's tribal representative on the family and permanency team. This field allows up to 4,000 characters for users to enter data into related to this topic. The next question is, if a parent or child age 14 or older raised concerns about specific relatives or individuals being on the family and permanency team, this field is for workers to identify the person who raised the concern, provide a summary of the concern, including the individual who is the subject of the concern, and the agency action taken in response to that concern. Again, the user has up to 4,000 characters, can enter up to 4,000 characters of information into this field. The final section on the top part of the family and permanency team is to describe the agency efforts to ensure that the family and permanency team meetings are held at a time and a place that is convenient for the family. Again, up to 4,000 characters of information or data can be entered into this field. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky with these splitter bars. And I just want to make note that, this is an iterative process, and this is the first iteration of this screen, and several enhancements are in line to be added to it to help workers. So just wanted to throw that out there. This is the first iteration, and improvements will be made in the future. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of the screen here, and I'm going to see this splitter bar, and I'm just going to click on it to bring in focus the second part of the screen. And as you can see, there's no data to display. The second part of the screen has its own grid detail that will be added as you add team participants to it. And the way in which you add team participants to the family and permanency team is by choosing, multiple ways of adding new. I'm a right clicker, always will be. So I'm right clicking from the QRTP family and permanency team folder again. And then I'm going to navigate down to the folder that says team participants. And then I'm going to glide on over to new team participants to add a new team participant. Uh-oh, no, 1 second. Whew. There we go. So individuals under team participant in the dropdown are individuals that are already listed as participants or collaterals in the work group itself. And there was good questions that came up from the policy webinar earlier today that I hope to clear up during this particular demonstration. So again, if I click the drop down, I'm going to select Shannon Snow. Shannon Snow is our client's mother. She's a parent. So then we're going to select Shannon Snow's role, and her role is parent. As you can see, there's many different roles you can choose from: child, youth, parent, step parent, legal guardian, Indian custodian, relative, requested by youth age 14 or older, tribal representative, professional, foster parent, or other. In this particular circumstance, we are going to select parent. And then we need to indicate whether or not this particular individual is a team member. Now, why do you ask? It should be intuitive that this person will be a team member. However, the provisions of FFPSA indicate that relatives and individual relatives should be added to the family and permanency team, whether they're a team member or not. And this is going to be where you indicate whether or not that relative is a member of the team. And that information that I just provided for you is spelled out clear in more clear terms under the help text for team participant. So I'll go ahead and click on that and I'll show you what that says. So this is better articulated than maybe the way I just said it. FFPSA requires that when a child is placed in a QRTP placement, all contact informations for members of the child's family and permanency team, and for other relatives who are not part of the family and permanency team, are included in the out-of-home placement plan, which is filed with the court. Now, we're not technically talking about an out-of-home placement plan when we're talking about this screen, but this very same information that we enter onto this screen has to be entered into the QRTP family and permanency portion of the newly designed out-of-home placement plan. So this will be a good template to set up prior to filling out that information in your out-of-home placement plan. And like I said, this is the first iteration of the screen. Future enhancements may allow for this screen to communicate with the out-of-home placement plan, but we'll know more about that in the future. So let me get back to Shannon. Shannon is the parent. She's going to be a team member, so we're going to say yes. And then we're going to enter Shannon's contact information. Contact information for Shannon should already be entered in Shannon's address, phone, email, and state detail folder in order to appear in the dropdown on this screen. So when I click the arrow, if I don't see any phone information or email information or address information, I'm going to want to go to Shannon's participant node and enter that information again, come back here, refresh, and then pull it in. And then because we're adding relatives that may or may not be part of this team, some of that, or maybe a team participant wants their information to remain confidential, we can select whether or not this particular participant's information is going to be confidential by indicating yes or no. So we're going to pretend like I had all of the phone address, email, contact information is confidential. We're going to say no. And then we're going to save that information. Now, one of the bits of information that I did not cover that I quickly added to the job aid in between the policy webinar and this webinar is how to add existing clients that might be found in your county database or your agency's database that are related to this particular, or that need to be added to this family and permanency team, or how to add new collaterals that will only exist inside of this family and permanency team, or adding professional collaterals, again, that would only exist within this list of family and permanency team. And I'll elaborate on that in just a moment here. So again, we are going to our family and permanency team folder, and we are going to select team participants and then new team participant again. And like I said before, if they're not a participant or a collateral added to the work group, you will not see them in the dropdown. Sorry if I repeat myself. I just want to make sure that everybody's getting information and you're all on the same page. So I don't see this particular person in my dropdown, but I know that they're a collateral or a relative that can be added onto this family and permanency team. And again, whether that relative is going to be part of this team or not, they would be added as a collateral for the time being, for this iteration. And to add that collateral, I'm going to navigate down to the bottom of the screen here and select the action button. Toward the bottom of this action menu, I can see that I can add an existing client. And this existing client can only be found in your county's database. It does not perform a state search at this time and does not offer you the selection to do so. So for instance, if I wanted to add an existing client that I knew would be a part of this family and permanency team, I could perform a person search under that existing client. And we'll just throw a random name out there of a client that I've created in my test environment in the past with the last name of Crow. And I'm going to start my search. And say, for instance, Jill Crow is known to my county's database. I could select her in the grid and then come down here to the bottom right-hand corner of that search and select to bring Jill into the participant screen, or the participant grid, I should say. Then I'm going to choose Jill's role. I'm going to say whether or not she's a team member, pull in her contact information. If she wants her contact information to remain confidential, then there is no need to bring in the contact information. You can just leave these fields blank, and then you can just indicate that Jill wants her information to remain confidential. Now, if we have another relative that can't be found in our county database and we want to add them as a collateral, again, you would navigate, perform the function of adding team participant, new participant, and then you can add this person as a new collateral. But if you have any indication that professional collateral exists within your database that can be part of this team, you can do a professional collateral search by selecting add existing collateral. However, if this person is not a professional collateral or a known client within your county database, you can add a new collateral. And then the new collateral, box will pop up. You can add that person's name. You see that the clearing status is collateral, so there's no need to clear this individual, and we will select OK. And now Jane Doe will appear in our dropdown, and she's added to this particular family and permanency list. And then we go about adding her role, whether or not she's a team member, contact information, etc. Once you have assembled your team of participants, that team of participants needs to be included in that QRTP assessment referral to a qualified individual. And one of the ways by which you can create that list of individuals is by coming up to your team participant grid. You can right click and you can select print grid. And that list of participants will populate. And then you can follow through by saving this information and attaching it to that QRTP assessment referral for that qualified individual. And that's going to help the qualified individual reach out and make an informed decision about a QRTP placement. Okay, now we need to talk about the QRTP family and permanency team meeting option that's going to be found under staff activity. We want individuals to get in the habit of putting these activities into SSIS anytime the family and permanency team meets. So we're going to navigate away from Stacy Snow's permanency folder, and we're going to navigate to our chronology folder. And I'm going to right click on chronology and I'm going to create a new activity. Now on that job aid, the QRTP family and permanency team, you'll see around page 8, it talks about, where to find the QRTP family and permanency team information in the activity dropdown when the right program, brass program and brass service are indicated on the particular time activity. So for instance, the program of Child Protective Services and the applicable services of 104 Child Protection Investigation or Child Welfare Assessment. There's a long laundry list of services associated with this brass program code where you can find the activity of QRTP family and permanency team. So I'm just going to select one of those applicable. I'll just choose child welfare assessment here. So now I have the brass program of 110, the brass service of 107. And then I should be able to find in my activity dropdown that QRTP family assessment right here. Family and permanency team meeting, I should say. So QRTP family and permanency team meeting. So reference that grid in that tutorial, and that's going to give you again those brass programs and services where you'll find the QRTP family and permanency team option under your activity dropdown. And then you'll complete the time activity as you would normally for any other type of assessment or time record. There will be data cleanup associated with the family and permanency team screen. The message, for example, listed on your job aid on page 10. It will read QRTP family and permanency team with date team assembled of, for example, 10/5/2021 is incomplete. And then the help description for that will be QRTP family and permanency team records are required by the Family First Prevention Services Act. A record is considered complete when all required fields are entered. One or more of the following required fields are missing, and then it indicates associated work group, date team assembled, the participant's role, participant team member, ICWA, or one of the 3 text entry fields that we were talking about on that screen. Then on your job tutorial, you'll see that grid under the appendix of applicable certification settings for QRTP. I'm going to navigate back to the permanency folder just to show you what I'm talking about, so you have a frame of reference. What happened to my record? Oh, I better get out of here. One sec. Oh, SSIS. I guess I can't go back. Oh, here it is. So as I was indicating in your appendix on page 11, I'm going to bring these down. I'm going to go back up to the top of this screen here. Again, that QRTP placement has to have an applicable certification of QRTP in order to present itself in your QRTP placement field. And I think that about covers the new enhanced functionality or the new addition of this particular screen for Family First Prevention Services. Are there any questions that I can answer for you today? So Cindy Roberts, she says, we don't allow the workers to create professional collaterals in SSIS. We have one person that does that. Will this be a problem? And my suggestion would then be for that individual who wants to create a professional collateral, if they can't find that professional collateral, is to reach out to their supervisor or that individual, if they know who that individual is, to create a professional collateral so they can find them in your database. And then Heidi again has thrown a lot of the resources in the chat if you haven't had an opportunity to take a look. I see another question here. So Terry says these errors that are coming with the release on open cases. I don't know how to answer that. Cynthia, do you understand more of the context of what Terry's asking, or anyone on the panel? She says these errors that are coming with the release on open cases, there will not be screenings on some, oh, okay, wait, I've read it out loud now. There will not be screenings on some cases. How will the errors be handled? So this stuff doesn't start until September 30th. So I don't know if there will be any errors related to any of the placements that exist currently, because those will be known as legacy placements as of September 29th. So the errors will more than likely be visible after September 30th, or on or after September 30th, when an individual is placed with an applicable certification of QRTP. Thanks for that question. If you want to back your question up with more context, feel free to do so also. We have a question from Cassandra. If a child goes into placement, but the facility is not QRTP certified at that time, but gets certification afterward, could we do the screening then? Or would the $40 just not apply? Do any one of our panelists have an answer for that? It looks like Cynthia wants to answer that question.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I have some neighbors mowing in the background. So I think, you know, we've had a similar question in our last webinar, which was really more policy focused. And I will try to do my best to reiterate or summarize what Deb Besky-Brown had said for that, which is really the teams and all of that would not be applicable because you would need to do that prior to them going into that placement. And so I think that your question is like, was, will they, let me read it again. Could we do the screening then? Or would the $4E just not apply? So you really have to do the screening and all of that work prior to the placement. After the placement, you would not need to go back and do that. The 4E reimbursement would then, like you said, not available. So thanks, Cassandra.
Terry, will there be any reports that can be run that shows missing screens for social workers, for support staff, to show workers what they are missing in each case? That's a great question, Terry. As of right now, I don't believe there are any worker general reports that that can be run to show this information. It looks like Cynthia would like to answer that as well.
Yep, Eric, I think you're correct. I think we really, we wanted to make sure that this was available for for the federal deadline. And I think that we will be, I know that we will be building other reports and any other reports, and then updating other things that we find will be helpful for this, whether it's, small changes in business rules or, whatever else it is. So as you are going through these and you have questions and concerns, we'll take the information that we're getting from people to help inform, but we are planning on implementing other reports to help workers make sure that they are getting this right and to maximize all the revenue.
I don't see questions flying into the Q&A as of yet. I know it's going to take some time to process all of the information that we at DHS are throwing at our county and tribal partners related to FFPSA. So we are definitely open and welcoming questions. Again, let me go back to that slide where you can feel free to send your questions. I hope you can see my screen here. Oh, it's like being a DJ. You got to hit the right button. Yeah, so we know that it takes some time for this information to settle. We know that you're going to have tons and tons and tons of questions come September 30th. So we're ready. We're trying to be as proactive as possible with these webinars to help, get the information out there. But again, like I said, we realize that it's going to take some time to wrap our heads around this. And we definitely want to let you all know that we appreciate all of the work that you do and all of the information that you have to digest and record. So I'm not seeing a whole heck of a lot of questions out there. Let's see. Oh, there's that contact information that Heidi threw into the chat again. So I won't hold on to you guys too much longer here. Just wanted to, again, thank you for blocking out time in your day to wrap your head around this information. Again, take a look at those links, register for future webinars. We have a few more left. I think we just passed the halfway point. We're on the home stretch, but there's still some information to cover. And we'll get that out to you within the coming weeks. So go forth, conquer, have a great day, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.